put the sealant on the pieces of ThermalBuck themselves, there will be 3 beads. You'll have 1 bead towards the outside edge where the nail goes in to hold the ThermalBuck into place. You'll have 1 in the center for an extra added air and water seal, and then 1 towards the outside edge where the screws actually penetrate through. This is a Dow Corning 758. It's the sealant that we use. Once it's cured, it still stays very pliable, and it's a good long-term sealant. We do not want to use a cheap sealant at this base because we're counting on this to be our air and water seal. Again, we'll flash it later. There will be additional steps. We'll have 2 to 3 layers of flashing on everything we do, but this is a very integral part of our air and water seal. Now that we've got the sealant on all the pieces of ThermalBuck, we're going to start the installation. What we do, the reason we cut the sealed piece flush is we're going to put a bead of sealant between the OSB and the WRB. We're going to press that into place, and then we'll put the ThermalBuck over top of that. This is the only place where we want the WRB coming between the wall and ThermalBuck. No other place do we want that. In case what moisture would happen to get behind your WRB, then there's an easy path for it to wick in. Here it's a shingled effect, everything goes to the outside, so this is the only reason that we want the WRB between the ThermalBuck and the wall, and that's the seal application. We've got our 3 beads behind ThermalBuck. Now we'll put it into place in the seal application. We start with the seal and make sure that you put a lot of force in that, getting that tight. You're not going to hurt the ThermalBuck. It's a very, very rigid product. So make sure you get really, really firm, tight area up against the wall. Next, we'll take the corners as we discussed earlier. Again, the reason we miter these corners is we've got a big area to seal up moisture in there. So we'll put our Dow Corning 758 sealant on the top and bottom corner, I guess on the right and left corner. So now we're going to move into placing the jams. We've got our sealant in the corners. We want to have good ooze out. So we'll put the piece in. Again, make sure you're very firm with pushing the product in. Now bring it down so you have room to put your headpiece in. Make sure you get a nice tight corner. We'll move into the next. We're doing our other jam next. Make sure your corners are nice and tight. We'll seal your top corners. Now we'll put the top piece in. Again, we've got our 3 beads like we do on others. We'll push one corner in. Then we'll bring the other corner up and we'll pull down in the center of this. That way we can bow the piece and get it in. That piece being so short, I couldn't get a lot of bend, and I pushed some of the sealant back. So before we put this all together, we want to make sure we added some sealant here because we do want to have a really good seal. So I'll make sure I hold this apart, and I'm going to push a little bit of sealant into that opening. Now, the back side's really good. We don't need to worry about that, but we definitely do want to make sure that we're using plenty of sealant. Now, we're lining up the corners. We've got good ooze out, so we're ready to start the nailing process.